requires that they have 8 off-street parking spaces, and they are on site and available. This restaurant has seating for 130 persons on the inside and 34 seats on an exterior patio. Hours of operation are from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. on the interior, and on the exterior in their patio, they're open from Sunday to Thursday till 10 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday till 11 p.m. and that's on the patio. They do provide food service during all hours of operation. So they are maintaining all previously approved business plan operations. This application will solely allow the applicant to serve a full alcohol menu with their food menu. This particular ownership group has another Red Cow restaurant operating in downtown Minneapolis, and we have had no operating issues, complaints, or concerns there. And again, this restaurant has operated at this location for the past 3 years without concerns. A public hearing is required for this liquor upgrade. Notices were sent to residents and property owners within 600 feet of the restaurant. We also notified the Fulton Neighborhood Association and the 50th and France Business Association. We received 16 responses from that notification process. 10 are in support and 6 are opposed. The common theme for those submitting opposition to this application were congestion, parking issues in the area, fear of additional noise, and things like that. Our review of this application and our review of the ownership and management of the restaurant for the past few years finds that they meet all of our requirements, and staff's recommendation is that the committee approve this application.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will open up the public hearing for the approval of the on-sale liquor application for Red Cow 3624 West 50th Street. Anybody here to speak to this item? Please come forward and state your name for the record.
Hi, thank you all. My name is Martha McDonald, and I live on the same block as the Red Cow restaurant. I think you said that it was at 50th and Chowan. It's actually at 50th and Drew. Chowan is the Roulette Bakery, which we also enjoy in our neighborhood. I primarily want to speak towards the noise complaints. You said that six of the neighbors were opposed, and that was high on the list. I am not against development. Obviously, I live in an area that's walkable and fairly dense. I also work at the University at the Metropolitan Design Center, and we see the value of having a lot of things condensed together. I'm also a person who lives in the city, and I enjoy the city and know that there are noises that come with that. What I would like to argue is that our block is being excessively piled on with the things that are making noise on our block. And so even though you sent that letter to people within whatever it was, 600 feet, I don't think that the people within 600 feet are as affected by those of us who live exactly right on Drew Avenue. And I want to speak to the noise about that first. When the Blockbuster moved, obviously it was very quiet. Videotape business is going downhill, and the restaurant came in. That increased the traffic, and the neighbors were very up in arms against the traffic. That was not my issue because I live on the corner on the opposite end, and I have a double pad on my driveway, which lets out onto the side street. So I thought, oh, that's the neighbors down there. That's not really affecting me. What I didn't realize is that the cars were going to be parked all the way around the corner. I thought, oh, cars are quiet, you know, no big deal, etc. When the restaurant changed from to offer breakfast, that's when I first noticed more cars being parked around the side of the street. And what I was surprised by was the locking beeps. So 3 cars can park on 49th on the side of my house, and 3 cars can park in the front. So inside my house with the doors closed, I hear burp, 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 and those cars turn over several times a day because of the restaurant. So I feel like inside my house, I have a parking lot for 6 cars in the front of my house. So that's what I'm hearing during the day as these car beeps. I wish that you could change the manufacturers so those things made no noise. It would make a big difference, but I realize that's out of your control. The second thing that has also increased is the noise at the intersection from the volume. Now, we've always had cut-through traffic because cars want to avoid 50th and France stoplights, so they turn on Drew, and then they turn on 49th, and they cut over to France. So we've always had that. But because of the new permit parking, people see the red cow, they turn on that street, they start to go down the street, the entire street is parked. They get to the corner where I live and they're like, oh, well, I'll pull a U-turn or whatever. Or they're kind of impatient and trying to find a spot and other cars are crossing. And so the amount of people at that intersection that are either screeching their cars with a near miss or honking at someone else because they're impatient and they're tired about it has significantly increased. And the thing that's disturbing the most is those screeches of near misses. Like you're inside your house and you hear that and you're like, oh my God, it's only a matter of time before an accident has happened. This is a repetitive thing. This is a regular thing that has increased because of the volume. So how does this apply to the liquor license? The volume could be exactly the same, et cetera. The other thing that is loud is just good intentioned people. I mean, the restaurant has been good. They put up a little sign that says, please respect our neighbors when you're going to your car. So, you know, I work at the University of Minnesota. It's not rah-rah kids going to the game, you know, screeching. It's simply a group of 4 people who are walking back to their car, and they get to their car, and someone's parked in front of my house, and someone's parked across the street, and someone's over there, and it's 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and they're like, oh, yeah, Jim, I'll see you later. No, wait, we're going to get together tomorrow. So they're not maybe drunk enough not to drive, but they've been having a happy enough time that they're talking very loudly. Now, our houses are very close to the sidewalk. So where these people are sitting in the front row is where my bedroom window is, and the sidewalk would be about where you're sitting. So if someone's just speaking loudly for a short time, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to get out of bed and tell them to keep it down. And by the time I get out of bed to tell them to keep it down, they disperse. So, but what's happening is this is a repetitive thing because of the volume of the people that are walking down our block from the restaurant. My particular opposition to going to the hard liquor, which I like hard liquor, believe me, is that I think it's going to increase more people staying later at night. They're not just going to finish dinner and go. They're going to come after dinner for more drinks. And that will increase the people walking down the street, talking loudly, having a good time, saying goodbye to each other, et cetera. So I'm going to wrap this up here, and I'm happy to take your questions. But the reason why I'm so adamant about expressing this is because our little section where we are, 49th and Drew, already has a whole list of things that are creating city noise in our area. We've got 50th Street, which is 50 to 70,000 cars a day. So when we're sitting in our backyard, you have a drone of traffic behind you. We already have that. We have commercial cut-throughs, so it's not just cars, but it's large semi-trucks from the Holiday Station who made their delivery at 6 in the morning, who are cutting around the corner, et cetera. Those are much louder vehicles. We're between the high school and the Dairy Queen. So we have the high school students walking on my street and talking on their cell phones, whatever. High school students are good kids, but when they stand outside your kitchen window and they're going off about their boyfriend, it's an annoyance. I know you're going to laugh at me about this, but the kiddie pool is very happy. All the families go to the kiddie pool in the morning, and then at 3 o'clock on Saturday, when they're going uphill home, there's basically a lot of screamings and meltdowns, which are repetitive.
You could wrap up, please.
And we have airplane traffic going over our house. So the only time that I can be in my backyard and have it be quiet is Sunday mornings between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. So I realize you can't change all those things, but we have enough noise where we are. We're an R1 or whatever, single family. We're not a commercial district. And I just don't want you to pass anything else that's going to create more noise on our block.
Thank you.
Thank you.
there anyone else here to speak to this item? For state your name and address for the record, please.
Chairman, Luke Schimpf with Red Cow. Chairman Fry, thank you so much. Committee members for listening. Appreciate your comments also on the neighborhood. Julia shared some of those comments that came in. I think the opposition has been shared just so we could reflect on those, and gives us a great opportunity now to kind of go back and work with some of our purveyors, because some of that truck traffic that you're talking about definitely are our purveyors that we talk to, and we have some set rules, but it's really tough to hold them accountable to that. So once we do receive a complaint, we do our best. The nature of the upgrade for us is really a couple-fold. One would be our guests are coming in regularly and stating that they either don't come back as often or aren't going to come in because they do want a liquor-based drink rather than just beer and wine. And then second is we, within about a 300-foot or 3-block radius, most of the other restaurants have liquor, and so we found ourselves at a bit of a competitive disadvantage to continue to make those investments that we've made in the community, both all across and even in St. Paul and other stores. It's kind of a cumulative effect, and so we appreciate having the businesses there and putting our money back into the community. And as far as mixes go, we're about 68% food, 38% beer and wine right now. Based on my experience in our other 2 locations, I don't see that mix changing from a food to alcohol ratio, but that 32% will modify. We'll still end up about 18% being beer, and then the remainder will be kind of divided equally between wine and spirits. At least that's been my experience, both at Red Cow and in my previous 7 restaurants that I owned. But I open myself to questions to anyone on the committee if you have questions about the proposed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Schimpf. Do you have any plans for how you're going to reduce the noise after someone leaves the restaurant? I mean, I appreciate the sign that you have up there.
Yeah, I think, our first is always the signage helps. As far as being able to control folks when they leave, that's a very difficult challenge for us, to be in control of people when they exit. We do have a liquor training that we go on, so we're not in the over service business. That's not good for anybody. Quite often we do try to cut some people off when they become unruly. We actually will call the police. There's records of that regularly, where folks, if we feel like maybe they might even be 3 or 4, but they're just like, hey, you shouldn't drive. We'll be like, we make sure that they find a safe way home and try to mitigate that. As far as the noise mitigation from our purveyors and trucks and such, we can do that. I've also worked with the Holiday Station before, because I know we've received complaints and found that the trucks going through the neighborhood aren't necessarily ours. So I've tried to liaise with the other purveyors or business owners in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to this item? Anyone else here to speak to this item? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and go ahead and move approval myself of the staff direction on item number 9. And I'll just state and ask Red Cow and Mr. Schimpf to do everything he can to limit the amount of noise. And when there's some noise outside of the North Loop Red Cow, I think to myself, I'm succeeding as a council member. But it's North Loop and it's downtown. Obviously, it's a different dynamic in Southwest. So we appreciate all your investment in the community. So I've moved approval. Is there any discussion on that topic? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. And that item passes. Item number 10 is tailgating, which is the authorized park lots near U.S. Bank Stadium. And is Ms. Roberts here to present? Great.
Council Chair Fry, committee members, I'm Linda Roberts, Assistant Manager in Business Licensing. I've prepared a very brief presentation on the tailgating amendment that's before you today, because you do have a packet of information. I wanted to just briefly highlight a few regulations that are important to keep in mind when we consider tailgating. Tailgating is allowed in open-air commercial parking lots that charge for parking, which we call Class A parking lots. Not all parking lot owners wish to allow tailgating, and the city has no influence to require them to provide that tailgating services. Additionally, zoning codes do not allow for new or intensification of parking lots downtown. Finally, to state the obvious, due to developments, there are fewer parking lots. If approved, the amendments before you will result in the tailgating zone to be changed as detailed in the map. The code has always required parking lot owners to provide security, porta potties, litter cleanup, and security. And the amendment comes with an additional enhancement that specifies how long tailgating can occur for an event: 6 hours prior to the start of an event and 3 hours after an event. Significant engagement with the community has been conducted on this topic. There was a community task force that was comprised of the Downtown Minneapolis Neighborhood Association and the Vikings that resulted in some recommendations that have been incorporated in the amendment. It should also be noted that although it talks about tailgating, we talk about events in the zone. There are other teams and events that happen in the city. We have our championship links that weren't engaged. They don't typically engage in tailgating activity. It's the Vikings that do. Public hearing notices were sent on May 4th to all parking lot owners, neighborhood, and business associations in the city. We received 8 public hearing responses in support of allowing tailgating, which the amendment does. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Any questions for staff? Thank you. So I will open the public hearing for the subject of tailgating by US Bank Stadium. Is there anybody here to speak to this item?
Hello, my name is Scott Asplund, better known as Skolt to some of you. Hey, Jeff, Lester. As a Viking fan, gone to games forever and a day, and tailgating is a huge, huge part of the whole experience. It's an event, just like you said, and it's important to the whole fabric of what's going on in the day. Football is not just a game day. I love the Lynx too, and they're fantastic champions. I give them total credit. I've been a super fan for them as well. You don't have tailgating in the Target Center area, so that doesn't happen. I think we could have fans who would want to do that if that was the case. But we're here to talk for the football thing. We know that because the new stadium and all the development, as you said, has come up, we're losing spaces. So we need to maximize as much as we possibly can for this. My good friend Larry Spooner, who has spoken here before at the Capitol and getting the stadium approved, he often talked about how football and Viking game days is the time when it's kind of like the Minnesota as a state, our family campfire of getting together and getting around. Well, tailgating is that campfire aspect of this whole day and this whole time. It's so important to everything. We have fans who aren't just from Minnesota who come in or from the cities. We have fans who come from out of state. Number one, they're coming to a game because they got a ticket. But number two, they're coming to hang out with super fans and to tailgate. And if they can be here longer for the weekend, they'll socialize with us too, and we'll give business to Minnesota and Minneapolis businesses all around the area. But the tailgate is a huge part of the whole day. My father, when he moved back to Minnesota a few years ago, he was living in Michigan at the time, retired. He was like, "Can you come over on a Sunday?" I'm like, "No, it's a Viking game day." It's like, this isn't just a 4-hour day for me, Dad. It's like a full-time job. I don't get paid to be a fan. I wish. Lester? No. But anyway, I'm joking. He knows that. It's a full-time day though, because we're downtown or we're hanging out and we're having good times. And for the record, I don't drink. So there are other fans like me too who are there not getting drunk, not getting intoxicated, not going crazy. Certainly there are people who do that. But we control that too within our fan community as it is. We have a very good community of friends. Viking Dave, who's going to speak to you in a minute, will attest to this too. We take care of our own. So if people need a designated driver, we get that covered. And nothing unruly has happened. In all my years, and I'm 52, of going to football games in some other states and stuff too, the only place I've ever seen a fight was at a Cleveland Browns game in Cleveland against, eons ago when I was a teenager. I've never seen problems like that happen here because our tailgate lots take care of themselves. They have the security, they have the porta potties, they have the litter stuff, and we clean up on ourselves too. I'm very proud of Viking fans having bags of garbage things to contain all that, and people who bring and control their own. We have families that come out there because we know kids come and they like to hang out and get pictures with those of us who paint up and gear up. or when the cheerleaders come by, or when the skull line, drum line comes by, because it's all part of the community that goes on here. So we have to make this as good as we possibly can. So anything we can do to not limit this, because we know we're limited by the development. That's a given. We knew that 4 years ago when we got this approved. We need to make this happen. It's just too important.
Thank you.
So please help us do that. Thank you.
Mr. Usman?
Hi, my name is Joe Uspin. I live in Woodbury. Just brief comments because I think a lot of it was already eloquently covered. I am a supporter of tailgating, and I just wanted to make sure that the fans were actually supported in this room. I saw a lot of comments online, and that's why I felt the need to come. People talk about rowdy tailgating and not cleaning up after themselves. I actually own a tailgating trailer, which has a bathroom in it. It has everything you need. We clean up after ourselves. Everything goes home. I saw a lot of comments trying to encourage tailgaters to stop tailgating and actually go into the bars. I'm not bringing my 15 and 18-year-old daughters into a bar. We want to play bags. We want to watch the game. I've been a season ticket holder for the last 3 years, but with my brother-in-law for over 20 years in the Metrodome. I previously was in the military for 24 years, came back, held on to the seats, and with the seat license fees, I was able to con my brother-in-law to let me have 4 of his seats. And part of it is tailgating. It's a great community thing. The things you don't find in the bars when you tailgate is you meet people all across the state of Minnesota. I think tailgating really shows, especially in the state of Minnesota, the care that we have for each other. You run into fans from opposing teams. Everyone's nice to them. If I have a hot dog and you need a hot dog, I'll give it to you. If you run out of mustard, whatever, I'll give it to you. It's a community event. Yes, there's people that get out of control, but I think we tend to police each other up pretty well. And, the interactions we have with the off-duty police officers that work the tailgating, you can't buy that kind of publicity for the police force. They're very accommodating with fans. They're interacting with fans. Everyone has a good time, and it keeps it under control. So I appreciate the difficult position that you guys are in right now because, yes, with all this development, there's competing interests. The bar owners would love to get rid of tailgating completely because that's more business for them. Tailgaters would love to have every parking lot available to them. And I realize we need a balance. And all I'm asking for is when you look at tailgating opportunities to find a balance. I think we lost that in Target Field. There is no balance. I think the Twins would probably hope that there was some tailgating right now to draw some fans for any reason to watch the team. So just please keep in mind, the fans have always supported the stadium. And I think every fan here, regardless of what happens with tailgating, is going to continue to support the team. It's not about that. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to this item? Mr. Bagley, want to?
My name is David Gunderson. I'm from Brooklyn Park, and I just wanted to speak out for the families that can't be here from outstate of Minnesota, from across the country that show up to tailgate. We do a pretty good job of policing up the area that we were in before. We were at 4 large lots before, approximately 4,600 spots. Now we're down to approximately 800 spots. Just wanted to make sure that we kept in mind that there could be still some expansion of lots to expand it further, and also to make sure that we do keep tailgating in downtown Minneapolis. I just wanted to
Thank you.
say my piece. Thank you.
Go for it. Name and address, please.
Steve Williams, Bobby and Steve's Auto World. Good afternoon, Councilmember Quincy and Councilmember Fry. Nice seeing you again. The rest of the council members, thank you for taking time to let us share our enthusiasm for opening up tailgating. When I heard that the Wolves blessed us with a $1 billion stadium in downtown Minneapolis, I was saying, how are they going to handle the game day experience of tailgating? Because I've been to Lambeau Field, and it is fun, and it is organized, and it is done, I think, I haven't visually seen any issues. I'm sure there is some, but we have a retail operation in downtown Minneapolis, and end of the day, we're a convenience store. End of the day, are we going to be less convenient on game day for people that don't want to go to the game? I think so, but I'm a diehard Viking fan, and I love the fact that the Wilfs blessed us with a $1 billion building on our end of town. You can see what's happened to the city. And I think that having, the tailgate experience, and part of that experience of a game day is tailgating for 10 days out of the year. We can deal with that. And I think it's no brainer. I think it'll be fun. And I hope that it goes through the full city council.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Bagley?
Mr. Chairman, council members, thank you very much for the chance to speak today and support the motion to move this tailgate zone forward. We're about 65 days to go before the stadium opens, so we're very excited about the progress on US Bank Stadium, and part of that effort and part of the game day experience is the tailgate experience, the time-honored tradition that started back in 1961 at the old Met Stadium parking lot, and has continued ever since. So it is an important part of the Viking game day experience for a certain audience, and we appreciate those fans that care about it passionately. And as Ms. Roberts and others have discussed, a lot of the development that has occurred, and we think US Bank Stadium has been a catalyst for this growth in the east in Easttown, and we're happy to see that development occur. But as a consequence, some of the parking spaces have gone away, and some of the challenges have been toward continuing this time-honored tradition. So we're happy to be here. I'm happy to answer any questions. We appreciate the City Council looking into this as part of our term sheet discussion 2012. So this conversation has been going on for 4 years with the city, with neighborhood groups, as was noted. And we've built consensus for this expansion and this evolution of the tailgate zone and this continuation of this tradition. So thank our fans for supporting this and coming out and supporting the Vikings. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Bagley. Let the record reflect that is the first time that the term Easttown has ever been uttered in a formal setting. Anybody else here to speak to this item? Yeah. Anybody else here to speak to this item? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I will move approval of this item, and I will speak to it just briefly. First, I do want to thank Mr. Bagley for what has been a year and a half now of conversation, of negotiation, and outreach with the Vikings, the neighborhood associations, plural, and the city. And we're trying to crack the nut that is of an ever-changing district. Previously, downtown East was just a slew of surface parking lots with not a whole lot of development. Now there's residential there. Now we've got a Commons Park that is going in. We've got a whole lot of activity, and one of the activities that we value is the game day experience. So I very much look forward to working with both the residents in the ward as well as the fans in securing what I have no doubt will be a beautiful game day atmosphere that's enthusiastic, that is exciting, and is, as all of you stated here, is also respectful. And I have every confidence that we're going to be able to do that. So I have moved approval of this item. Thanks to staff as well who've worked on this. Thanks to everybody who came and spoke. And any discussion on my motion? Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate all the work that you and the stakeholders have done on this matter. And the testimony was great, and I find it very believable based on today's testimony that our fan base, compared to our peer cities, is tidier, more organized, and more civic-minded, if not by comparison. But it does stretch the imagination, as given in testimony, that we share our mustard to needy Green Bay Packer fans when they're running short. I just don't know if that's credible. But nonetheless, I think the picture's been painted that they're going to do well by their community.
Yeah, if we approve this and I'm walking around with a mustardless hot dog, I expect to have that mustard slabbed on there. Just so. Any further discussion on the topic? All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no, and that item passes. Final item on the agenda for today, which is just a receive and file, is item number 24. Mrs. Mazzacano.
Chairman Fry, members of the committee, this is just simply the annual report on both the 2015 experience with the major grant programs to which we apply and then looking at 5-year trends, our development partners in environmental cleanup and innovation in construction design, and pre-development planning related thereto are the state of Minnesota through DEED, the Metropolitan Council through their many different grant products, and Hennepin County through their environmental cleanup program and their transit-oriented development program. Our projects continue to compete very successfully in each of the grant rounds. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in the number of commercial projects that are applying for funds. Within the 5-year period, we saw a lot of for-profit student housing in the University of Minnesota area. We're seeing more in terms of some institutional projects like the Washburn Center for Children, Surly Brewery, a lot of hotels being funded at this point, and kind of consistently throughout a lot of affordable housing. Are there any questions?
Thank you for the report. Are there any
welcome.
questions or comments for staff? Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
The action, I believe, is just a receive and file, so I will go ahead and move that action. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. That completes all of the items on our agenda today, and we are adjourned.